President Biden. Now, Secretary Marty Walsh is from labor. He was in the building trades. He got elected to the city council and then elected as mayor and elected in the state legislature. And he has taken that work, the work of being in labor, the work of being in a local leader in every way I'm talking about, and has recharged and re-energized the Labor Department, prioritized retirement security, pension protection, workforce development, the support of collective bargaining, protecting immigrant rights, creating family-sustaining jobs that help grow a middle class where people have a right to a union. That is what it means when you have a Secretary of Labor who sees this work through the eyes of labor. Let me introduce our friend, U.S. Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Boston. It's awesome to be here. To Randy, I was backstage with Senator Warren and Liz Schuler, and we were watching Randy go through the process of becoming, how to go through the resolutions. And we all said, God, she's such a teacher, talking to teachers. So Randy, you're awesome. Thank you very much. I want to thank Randy for your friendship, for your leadership, for your partnership, and quite honestly, for all that you do for working people and for educators in this country, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank the national offices, the vice presidents, the state leaders, the local leaders of this great union, all of you here today. I know that Randy, I heard her say earlier, how many new delegates? I'm assuming there's a lot. Thank you for being involved in the democratic process. Thank you for being involved in your union process, because you don't make your union stronger if you sit on the sidelines. You make your union stronger by sitting right in the middle and being here, so thank you very much. To Beth Contos, thank you for your leadership here in Massachusetts. Give a shout out over here. This is the union of leaders at every single level. By the way, it's just how amazing is it to have the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, coming here to address your conference today. And it's amazing to have a lifelong educator in the White House. It does make a difference. And I was in a meeting the other day with the First Lady talking about the cancer moonshot. And again, the compassion, the love that she has, and the dedication she has, and for her students as well, and educators in America. So thank you very much. It's amazing to see her. It's a true honor for me to be here today to welcome thousands of incredible educators from all across the country to, as Randy said, my hometown. But I would be remiss if I didn't give a big shout out to my friend, my dear friend, and all of my dear friends, President Jessica Tang, and all my friends at the BTU. Where are you, BTU? There you are. Congratulations on your contracts. We have been through a lot together, and I've seen firsthand how the BTU and all of the AFT members fight for the students in their schools and the success of your students. Not just in good negotiating and through contracts, but everything that happens. We work together in this city of Boston, and many of you work together in your cities across America on issues that are affecting our young people. So when the global pandemic hit here in Boston, we kept working. We saw educators and school staff step up in amazing ways for our students. That's what members of this union continue to do all across our country in the face of tremendous challenge. Whether you teach a class, or staff a school, or drive a bus, or feed students, whether you work in early childhood education, K-12, a community college, an HBCU, or any university, whether you work in healthcare or in state and local government, I want to acknowledge, truly acknowledge, what you have been through these last 2.5 years. You have not only, should clap for yourself, and your members, and your friends, and your colleagues all across this country. You have not only helped students learn in person again, you have helped bring together people in our community. And that's certainly not easy. You're helping them manage grief and trauma during and from the pandemic. You're helping them process the terror of gun violence in schools in too many communities. And you're doing all of this as you deal with your own grief and your own trauma. You're doing this in the face of, in many places, short staffing and staffing levels. You're doing this in the face of vicious attacks on your curriculum, on your profession, even those who love you and who know you. We're hearing people out there pushing us. The attacks on teachers in the United States of America are wrong, and we must fight them back whenever they appear. I just want to tell a quick story. As Randy said, I was mayor of Boston for 7 years. And when I was mayor of Boston, I visited every school in the city of Boston over those 7 years, and many of those schools more than one time. And before I left as mayor, when I got appointed by the President of the United States of America, you're trying to figure out how do you wind down the last few days of the administration. It was difficult because it was really emotional for me, because everywhere I went, I cried, because I love being the mayor of Boston. I love my team. But I went to schools. I went to schools for the last 30 days. I went to every school every single day. And it was kind of in the pandemic, so we didn't have full schools. We kind of had some kids in schools. And I saw teachers there, and I went in and thanked them. And I realized all of the things in my life that I've had in my life, it just came flashing back. The very last school I went to as mayor of the city of Boston was the Everett. And that's the very school that when I started my education, I walked into as a kindergartner. And it wasn't by design, it was by accident, because I was supposed to go to school the next day and we had to cancel it. And I often think back about my first day walking into the school, the Everett, and the beginning of a foundation that I got in my life that brought me to the role of becoming Secretary of Labor. It's the teachers that impacted my life. It's the people that came into my life. As mayor of the city of Boston, I saw that firsthand. Many of the teachers right here in this row, I've known them personally. I've seen them in the classroom. I know who they represent. I know all of the folks that they do. Teachers, you continue to guide our young people and care for them with compassion in the United States. You help them move, and more than any other time, you help them move forward. You give everything you have and more. You are a role model in the impacts that you have had on your students. I want you to think about this for a minute. Every teacher in America, just by impacting one student, I want to say thank you for that. And I want to say something else. I want to say to you, this is why unions are important to our democracy. Unions support teachers, and teachers support unions, and unions move our country forward. That's why your union is so important to our democracy right now. You stand together in solidarity, united. You fight for each other, for your schools and for your students and for America. You fight for education. You fight for truth. You fight for equity and freedom and justice, which is the heart of our democracy. And this administration stands with you in that fight. President Biden has directed over $120 million to our nation's schools through the American Rescue Plan. His infrastructure law is directing billions of dollars more to electrify our nation's school buses, to replace lead pipes in 400,000 schools and child care centers across the United States of America, to bring affordable high-speed internet to homes and communities all across America. We know that when the pandemic hit, we had to send our kids home in this city of Boston with hotspots because their families didn't have internet. This bill will connect families and young people to internet all across this country. I want to thank Randy and the AFT members for mobilizing and supporting these historic investments. You know the difference that they will make. In the Department of Labor, which I am in charge of, we also know the educators' working conditions are the students' learning conditions. We are in focus on empowering all workers, all teachers, morning, noon, and night. That means advocating for the child care and paid leave that every working family needs and deserves in the United States of America. It means fair wages. It means good benefits. It means a secure retirement. It means freedom from the workplace violence, discrimination, and racism. It means job training programs and partners with professionals, union educators, to create pathways into the middle class. It means equity for workers of color, women, workers with disabilities, LGBTQ plus workers. In everything that we do, we can't leave anyone behind. And it means supporting every worker's right to organize and join a union. If they want to join a union, they should be able to join a union without interference from a company, from a government, from anyone. I am standing here today for a lot of reasons. I told you about the Edward Everett, one reason. But I'm standing here today really because a union opened the doors to my immigrant family, to my parents. As President Biden says, he always says this, the middle class built America. And then he says, and unions built the middle class. And we can't forget that. We are now, the president and all of us together collectively are now rebuilding that middle class. And that opportunity must be for everyone, no matter your race or gender or where you live or what zip code you're in or what industry you work in or you want to work in. That's why this administration strongly supports Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act for public employees, which means unions would be able to be created all across our country in right-to-work states. Right-to-work states. It's kind of an ironic statement, right to work, because it does everything but right to work. It discourages you to work, but whatever, we'll win that fight in the long run. And we also support the PRO Act for the private sector employees. In this country, and quite honestly, in some of our states, in some of our cities, we need to strengthen our labor laws and protect the rights to organize. But we're not waiting for someone else to act. We are backing workers right now. A year ago, President Biden established the first ever government-wide task force on work organizing. Vice President Harris is the chair and I'm the vice chair. We worked across the government to take down barriers to organizing and collective bargaining, both in the public and private sectors. And as a wave of organizing sweeps this nation, we are using this bully pulpit to speak out in support of the right to organize. We are making it clear that it's a worker's choice, and the worker's choice alone to decide whether or not to form a union. At the Department of Labor, we're looking to see what we can do. We're getting ready to launch a Know Your Rights campaign. We're setting up the first ever online worker organizing resource center. It's a one-stop shop on how to form a union that any worker can access. Together, we have the opportunity to write the next chapter in the history of the labor movement. I am grateful to Randy and the entire AFT staff for leading the way. I want to congratulate the members of the AAUP for voting to join the AFT. You're probably here, and build a strong national higher educational faculty union. I want to congratulate the adjunct faculty at the Pasadena Art Center of Design for joining the California Federation of Teachers. I want to congratulate the staff at the Community Health Centers of Burlington for joining the AFT Vermont. And I could go on because this union knows how to organize. Your leadership knows how to organize. And we need to continue to stand with you to continue to organize all across our country. This administration in Washington will always support you because you have the most pro-labor president of our history, and you have a labor secretary who carries a union book in his pocket. The progress that we have made proves that leadership matters. Elections matter. Voting and speaking out matters. And you know as well as anyone, there is so much more work to be done. You must keep fighting for the right to organize. You must keep fighting for living wages, for health care, for child care, for paid family leave, for the rights of women, people of color, the LGBTQ plus community, and all Americans. So this is not a time to be discouraged or back down. This is a time for solidarity. This is the time for us to stand up and to fight and to move forward. I have fought side by side with your members of this union for a long time, and I know that when we stand together, we win. And together, when we work together, we win. And when we fight together, we win. And I just want to end with this. I was supposed to give this big rah-rah thing at the end, and I kind of screwed up the whole speech right now, but I'm going off the cuff. I've been in Washington for the last 15 months, President Biden was able to pass the American Rescue Plan and get vaccines out there and do a lot of things, and 9 million people have gone back to work. And when you're talking to people out in the community, they're going to talk about inflation. They're going to talk about inflation. They're going to talk about everything that's wrong with what's going on in our country. The president inherited a situation that we didn't have a plan to get us through a pandemic. This administration came in and the first 100 days passed landmark legislation. We've got 9 million people back to work. Unemployment is low. We have an infrastructure law, the largest in the history of our country, where we're going to be doing investments all across America. We're making sure written into those laws that there's equity, that women and people of color have a chance to get into the building trades in place they haven't been able to do in the past. We're working, the first ladies here today, to talk to you teachers, to talk about how important it is for you to continue to move forward and fight. This isn't a time, brothers and sisters, to lay down and say, let's pray this goes away. This is a time for all of us to stand up. The older members in this room, we stand on your shoulders. The retirees, we stand on your shoulders. We have an obligation as union members to stand on their shoulders, continue the fight, continue to move this union forward, continue to move this country forward, because the unions are the only chance for the middle class, and we need to make sure we pull everyone up with us. So I want to say God bless you, God bless the labor movement, and God bless the United States of America. BTU!
It's so funny because now every conversation that I have, I said, do you have any student loans? Like, who says that, right? I'm like, well, have you heard about public service loan forgiveness? When I knew that I attended Howard University, I would have to take out student loans because there was no other way I was going to become a physician assistant. Making those payments were tough. But in 2007, when I heard the announcement that there's a public service loan forgiveness, I was already working in a nonprofit organization. That's a perfect opportunity for me. So in 2008, we have our annual benefits conference. I attended the PSLF. This was public service loan forgiveness. Within those first 5 minutes, I learned that I was in the wrong loan. All my payments wouldn't be counted. And because that happened, I would have to start over. And so for me, it was devastating to know that my loan servicer gave me false information. When I went and spoke to the AFT rep that was there, then at that point they said, well, you know, possibly they will be actually suing the loan servicer.
And teachers are now hitting back at the Department of Education. The American Federation of Teachers alleges in a lawsuit that the government's loan forgiveness program doesn't work.
It's a good thing about AFT, right? AFT stands when no one else will stand for you, but we are AFT. And so I knew that I had to be AFT. I needed to step up also. And that's the only way we would have been able to make this work. And that's when I joined the class action lawsuit.
Tens of thousands of former students about to see their college debt erased. It's part of a nearly $2 billion settlement with a company.
That to me meant my life was going to change. So I was like, so what's next? Like, I'm excited, right? So I'm like, getting my debt forgiven, I know that, but what can we do for others? So I was sitting in the clinic back in 2008. Where we are today, we're here at LA, our local AFT 1521. We have 9 student debt clinic trainers representing all 9 of our college campuses. I don't mind sharing that too. It was $140,000 of student loan debt.
And how much of that is being forgiven?
100%. We're meeting new members, we're increasing engagement, we're increasing member enrollment. Members are having the ability to get this information they need. Tips to remember. As you begin for me to be able to pay it forward as a student debt activist, that gives me an opportunity to be able to be there for our members. Our union stepped up when no one was willing to step up, and that is the union. That's what the union is there for, to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. You want to do this now during this. I always say I'm forever grateful to my local. I'm forever grateful to Randy, who's just so strong. She is our fearless leader that stands before all, but I would have absolutely not been able to do this on my own. No way. That's what unions are. They're there to protect you.
So all throughout the convention, we're going to have these voices both from the stage and video and from the floor. You notice I have abided by your resolution. I am wearing my blue glasses. I will keep wearing them. Anyone wants my Red Lobster glasses, we'll rally them off or we'll auction them off later on today. What I am told, well, first, there are student debt clinics through this convention, and there's a taste of it in terms of summer and the work that we're doing. And you heard Jessica and you heard Richard yesterday. We have the waiver through October. We're trying to get it extended. The lawsuit that we settled with this administration, that we took against the last administration, the one against us, it should continue a lot of what's in the waiver, but we really believe that virtually everyone who thinks they have public service loan forgiveness will have their loans forgiven. We just need to go through the paces right now. And so even if that's not you, but you have someone in your local that affects, remember what Richard said from the podium yesterday. And so please, please, there is a vehicle by which we can get thousands and thousands of dollars of loans forgiven. And the next speaker who I'm about to introduce has been our champion on all of this. But before I do that, I am told by all of our legal meisters that when I asked you to vote for the rules of conduct for the 2020 convention, and I asked you to look at pages 111 to the end of the book, I did not specifically ask you to also adopt the rules governing the 2022 election of officers of the AFT and delegates to the AFL-CIO convention. That is what I was told from backstage. Now, I said to them, I thought I did both of these things. So this is what I'm going to ask you. When I asked you to do the rules of conduct, did you believe that I also asked you to do all the rules, including the election rules? Okay, let's do it this way. All those who believe that I asked you to do both, say aye. Any who didn't believe that, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. And then what we will do at the end of the session is I'll go through all those rules again for the people who didn't think that we did that. But I'll do that after we adjourn the session. Okay. Okay, legal meisters, did I do it the right way? Mr. Parliamentarian? Thank you. Now, look, the person I'm about to introduce, she is my Shiro. When, I'm not going to start singing, but when times are tough, when I need someone not only to cheer me up, but to actually analyze what the heck is going on in this world, when I need someone as a thought partner, this is the person I go to. But I don't just go to her. Anytime I have a conversation with our next speaker, I have to study up before the conversation, because she's not only a relentless advocate, she is really, really, really smart, and she asks really, really, really tough questions. She is the senior senator from this great Commonwealth and one of the loudest and clearest voices in Washington for people. And she is a great explainer. She can go, I've watched her go to her hometown in Oklahoma and wow a crowd, just like she does at an AFT conference, just like she does in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's because in her soul, she understands how to build an economy that works for working folks. She understands that the wealthy has to pay their fair share. She understands we got to protect access to reproductive health care. She understands that early childhood education needs to be free and we need to deal with child care. She understands, I could go on and on, but she understands what student debt does to our young people and has been the champion of canceling student debt particularly up to $50,000 to change wealth in America, particularly for people who are vulnerable, particularly for our black and brown kids who we said go to college, but now we burden with student debt. And the person I'm talking about is Senator Elizabeth Warren. Whoa! Hello, AFT, and welcome to Boston. So I love being here with my favorite teacher, one of the toughest fighters for all educators, your president, Randy Weingarten. I just want to say firsthand, when there is a righteous fight that needs to be fought, there is no one I'd rather partner up with than Randy. I am also really happy to see Beth Contos here, who is the president of AFT Massachusetts, and Jessica Tang, the president of the Boston Teachers Union, also here today. You know, all I can say is here in Massachusetts, tough women get it done. Sure. And speaking of tough women, I am glad that our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, will be with us today. Yes. No one understands more just how important teachers are and how much we need them to build a better future for all Americans. We are really lucky to have an educator as our First Lady. So let's give her a round of applause. So I want to start today with a huge, loud, over-the-top thank you to every educator who is here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, teaching was hard before the pandemic, but you knew that. I actually still have not met a teacher who tells me that she got into this line of work for the beach vacations or for the lucrative stock options. Anyone here make that mistake and thought there'd be more stock options by now? Yeah. Well, teaching has always been tough. And over the past few years, you have confronted historic challenges that have made your jobs even tougher. But you have all gone above and beyond, as teachers always do. You moved to remote teaching, you moved to hybrid teaching, you moved back into classroom teaching, you adjusted your teaching to support students who were experiencing significant instructional loss. You dealt with increased mental health needs. You kept going, and you never lost sight of your objective, preparing your students for life. So one more time, from the bottom of my heart, and from the hearts of millions of other Americans, thank you. So thank you is a good place to start, but I want to say a whole lot more than thank you. First, I want Congress to take some responsibility for all you deal with. I get it. COVID was something that we couldn't avoid. It was bad, and we all just had to learn to cope as best we could. But there are other terrible events where America's lawmakers have failed you. As a nation, we are still mourning the 19 students and 2 teachers killed at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Everyone in this room has read the stories. Everyone in this room has had to think through active shooter drills or when to alert authorities about heightened security risks. These shootings are not completely unforeseen events. They are not
isolated acts of evil. And when Congress is unable to pass laws for universal background checks or to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, then Congress has failed you and every student you work so hard to protect. Now, we passed critically important gun safety legislation last month, and I'm glad we did. But so much more is needed. We must pass common sense gun safety laws. And if we need to get rid of the filibuster to get it done, I'm all in. But there's more. It's not just the threats of violence you face every day, it's the conditions under which you work, because lawmakers across this country have fallen down on their jobs. You deserve to teach in schools with adequate resources and where safety measures are in place to help you do your jobs. You deserve to be paid a livable wage for the crucial work that you do. You deserve to be empowered and trusted to teach the truth. Empowered and trusted to push back against cultures of misinformation and to ensure that all students feel welcomed. In the richest nation on earth, teachers deserve better. Now, from an early age, I knew that teachers were special. When I was in second grade at Woodrow Wilson Elementary School in Norman, Oklahoma, my teacher, Mrs. Lee, gathered me up for a hug one day and whispered in my ear that I could be a teacher, a school teacher just like her. Mrs. Lee changed my life. And from that day forward, I lined up my dollies and taught school. Although I do have to say, while Sammy and Susie and Terry Lee were all pretty good students, those storybook dolls were just empty-headed. Man. My daddy was a janitor, but thanks to Mrs. Lee, I was on a path to college and a real career. And I will forever be in her debt. I just want to pause for a minute on this story. Like I said, my daddy was a janitor. My mom worked a minimum wage job at Sears. But I had the chance to live my dream because America invested in kids like me. I went to a great public university that cost, you ready? $50 a semester. Yeah, a price I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job. And ultimately, I got to be a teacher, a law school professor, and a United States senator because higher education opened 1 million doors for me. I am grateful down to my toes, but the path I walked is closed today. Today, college costs thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. And instead of investing taxpayer dollars to bring down those costs, state governments reduced their financial support, and the federal government told everyone just borrow the money you need to cover the rising costs of going to school. That has left millions of teachers and many others drowning in student loan debt. I want to do the numbers for just a minute here. Nearly half, about 45%, of America's teachers take out student loans so they can get the education and the credentials they need to teach. The average debt of these teachers is nearly $56,000. And it's even higher for Black teachers who are more likely to borrow money to go to school and end up with higher loan balances. You can see the change over time. You can see how our government stopped investing in higher education and began shifting the cost of college onto working families. About 27% of teachers who are older than 61 had to borrow money to make it through school. Today, 65% of teachers 35 and under had to take out loans to make it to be teachers. As student loan debt began to stack up, Congress responded with a promise that educators and millions of other Americans who dedicated themselves to public service could pay for 10 years and then get their debts canceled. But the program was run by greedy loan servicers, while the Department of Education just looked the other way. Before the Biden administration, about 230,000 people applied for public service loan forgiveness. Of those 230,000 people who applied, fewer than 6,000 were approved. Math teachers, help us out here. That means, you got it, less than 3% of the public servants that applied to have their loans forgiven under the PSLF program actually got the relief they were promised. More than 97% were denied. And by the way, this is why math education is so important. You can keep track when Betsy DeVos is cheating you. Now, the good news, Betsy DeVos is gone. And your president, Randy Weingarten, has led the charge. Yes. And now the Biden administration is fixing these programs for teachers and for other borrowers. We're still on the front end, but so far the Biden administration has approved more than $8 billion in cancellation for nearly 145,000 public servants under PSLF. That's real change. Big round of applause for Randy and for everybody who worked on this. You bet. And I'm all in favor of this relief, but it's not enough. We need more help, and we need it now. Educators understand better than anyone that investing in schools from pre-K to postgraduate is good for the student and good for the country. Better educated workers, better educated inventors and entrepreneurs, better educated everyone makes us both a wealthier country and one with more opportunity, not just for those at the top, but for everyone. I want you to consider just one example. Following World War II, a grateful nation said to returning GIs that college and technical training would be free. More than 2 million veterans went to college or graduate school, and nearly 6 million used the GI Bill to pursue vocational training and become construction workers, electricians, mechanics, and other careers that help build America's middle class. The result was that millions of people were better educated, and they helped fuel an economic boom that lasted for decades. And here's the deal. It was a bargain. Every dollar that was spent on educating our veterans generated $7 in economic growth, a 7-to-1 payoff. That's what investing in education is all about. But today, we're upside down on that. Students are trying to get an education, but the debt they take on is not only holding them back, it's holding back the entire economy. These students have trouble buying homes, starting businesses. Some even decide against marriage and families. So the next time that someone tells you that America just can't afford to cancel student loan debt, you look them straight in the eye and tell them that America can't afford not to cancel student loan debt. And that's why fixing the higher ed system is such an urgent need right now. It's going to take investing in our students to make college more affordable for everyone who goes to college in the future. I'm all for that. but we need to deal with the mess we're in right now. And that is why the first step to overhauling the system starts with canceling student loan debt. Mr. President, our educators and our firefighters and everyone who is struggling with a mountain of student loan debt, it is time to cancel $50,000 of student loan debt. And let's be clear, who would be helped by this? It's not a bunch of kids from fancy schools. In fact, 99.7% of people with federal loans did not go to an Ivy League school. One statistic that knocks my socks off is that only 2% of Harvard undergrads borrow for federal loans. And why? Because the school and many of the parents can afford to pay for these students' education. But do you know how many undergrads at UMass Boston need this school just down the road, need to borrow to attend school? 57%. And students in other places are struggling even more. In Connecticut, 80% of undergrads leave school with loans. In New Hampshire, 81% of students take out loans. In Maine, a whopping 90% of students have to borrow to go to school. These are middle class and working class kids who did everything right. They tried to improve their lives through education, and now they are struggling to pay off thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. In fact, the picture is even worse than I have described it. Only 58% of the people with student loan debt actually have a college diploma. Some of the others were working on a certificate program to become an HVAC technician or a vet tech or a teacher's aide. Others tried college, but life happened. Pregnancy, working 3 jobs, family emergency, and now they earn at a high school level while student loan debt crushes them. Educators understand that education is about opportunity, but those opportunities can be very different depending on your starting point. In general, Black students have less family wealth, so they borrow more money to go to school, borrow more money while they're in school, and have a harder time paying it off when they get out. I'm going to give you just one stat. I know I've given you lots of stats, but you're teachers. You're smart. You listen to this. I want to give you just one more stat about this that to me just says it all. 20 years after folks get out of college, 20 years later, the typical white borrower still owes 6% of what they originally borrowed. 20 years of making payments and you still owe 6%, but at least the end is in sight. The typical Black borrower owes 95%. It must feel like this debt will last forever. Black women in particular shoulder a disproportionate amount of the student debt burden, holding 47% more debt than white men and 27% more than white women. Indeed, Black women hold more student loan debt than any other group in America. And this is why student loan debt cancellation is a racial justice issue and a gender justice issue. In fact, next time we're talking about all the things we need to do for women, keep in mind that women, who compose about 70% of public school educators, owe more than 2/3 of all of the student loan debt outstanding. So it just gives you an idea. Look, I know that's a lot of numbers, but the point is they all add up to the same thing. We need student loan debt relief, and we need it now. This is a fight, and teachers are fighters. Look at all you did in 2020. You organized, you knocked on doors, you made calls, you held signs, you showed up to elect President Biden and to help the Democrats take back Congress. You did this. And you reminded all of America that elections matter. You made real progress. You got rid of Betsy DeVos. You and your president got public service loan forgiveness back on track. And you even helped us get through some gun safety reforms. But we don't stop now. We've got to continue raising our voices for educators and for students. And that means organizing and showing up to vote this November. We can't back down. We won't back down on the issues that matter. We are staying in the fight for gun reform. We are staying in the fight for abortion rights. We are staying in the fight for universal child care. We are staying in the fight for adequate funding for pre-K through 12. We are staying in the fight for our technical schools and our colleges and our graduate schools. And we are staying in the fight to cancel student loan debt. I believe in us, and I believe in what we do together, because as I learned from Mrs. Lee in second grade, teachers change lives. Thank you for all you do. It is an honor to fight alongside you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're fired up, right? So I'm not part of the resolution, but I got my glasses. So I'm gonna take this off. Good morning, brothers and sisters, hermanos y hermanas. I am so excited and so thrilled to be introducing our next speaker, because I don't think I will ever get tired of saying this: the first woman, mujer, president of the AFL-CIO. Doesn't that sound great? So, joining us this morning is President Liz Schuler, who was officially elected to her first full term of as AFL-CIO president last month in Philadelphia. So she now heads 57 unions, and check this out, 12.5 million members. Did you hear me? 12.5 million members of the largest labor federation in the country. Liz knows deep down what we at the AFT believe, that labor unions can be the single most powerful vehicle for progress in our society, and that our values are the building blocks of the pathway to a better life for all of us. As our president, Randy Weingarten, said when she seconded Liz's nomination, she's a bridge builder, a consensus seeker, and a unifier. She knows there is power in listening as well as power in doing. I want to tell you a little story that she doesn't know I'm going to talk about. So this is a little bochinche about her. And that's like a little tale. She was with us at last month at the 30th anniversary celebration of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance. At one point, we were meeting in the AFL-CIO headquarters in the Samuel Gompers room, and Liz was speaking. Gompers, as you know, was the founding president of the American Federation of Labor. You may not know that he was also a key supporter of the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882. Liz did an amazing, brave thing. She said that the labor movement has to recognize its own dark past, and that we were going to start by renaming the Samuel Gompers Room. This was an incredible moment for everyone in the audience. as being the majority was all Asian participants. When we all sat there, we all got goosebumps. What bravery and what courage that took. So that's another reason I know we can count on Liz to be the bold, visionary, and innovative leader this movement needs. And I am thrilled to welcome my hermana, my friend, AFL-CIO President Liz Sula to the stage. Come on down.
Wow, wow, good morning, AFT. Woo! It's not an easy task to follow Senator Warren and our Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh, who had you all on your feet. But I want to say thank you, Evelyn, for that kind introduction, and wanted to acknowledge all the officers who I think have almost left the stage, but starting with Randy, who is absolutely unstoppable. She is my friend. I count on her as a partner. And I just want to say this woman is indefatigable. Is that the word? This is a crowd of educators, right? She works 24/7, which I'm sure you already know. She is passionate, and something rare that I think in a labor leader at the national level, she sits at the AFL-CIO table and she truly cares about the entirety of the labor movement. Not just AFT, but the entire labor movement. And she is a visionary leader who is not afraid to take risks and try new things, and that's what I love most about Randy. I also want to recognize Fed and Evelyn. I know they're in earshot, but they have been incredible champions for members on the front lines over the last 2.5 years and have also played incredibly pivotal roles within our federation. And I'm just honored to be here with you. What is it, reclaiming our future? That's what we're going to do. And it's such a perfect theme because that's what AFT does. Whether you're nurses and health professionals who help heal us and get us on the path to recovery, or you're educators and paraprofessionals who shape us as students and as people. You go above and beyond to create new possibilities for all of us every single day, and we're so grateful. And that's what my teachers did for me. I'm public school proud. That's right. Mrs. Wilson, my high school English teacher, forced me to see new possibilities for myself. There was a girl in my class, my grade, named Lisa Plank. And for those of you who remember the movie Election, anybody seen that movie? With Reese Witherspoon. Lisa Plank was the Tracy Flick of Gladstone High School. All right, she had been president of everything since first grade. And she was running for president of our high school, unopposed. And I was talking to Mrs. Wilson about it one day, and I was like, somebody should at least run against her. And Mrs. Wilson said, why not you? And I said, well, I've never run for anything in my life. But Mrs. Wilson did not accept that answer. And she said, you can do this. And so she used her off time to help me put together a campaign. I don't know if that's acceptable, for a teacher to do that, but she did. She became my coach, my motivator, and with her help, I took on Lisa Plank and I won. But it all worked out because Lisa Plank became an elementary school teacher. How about that? But Mrs. Wilson's question, why not you, has stuck with me to this day. Because there is no telling what we can do if we are willing to take risks and try new things. That's why we need to keep supporting the people who are rising up and organizing in new places. It's all around us. Workers organizing at breweries and coffee shops and REI and Apple stores and stadiums and hospitals and universities and museums and even in the cannabis industry, right? I just met with them. You can't help but snicker a little bit, right? And even on Capitol Hill. It's why we need to keep innovating and trying new approaches like we did during the union election at the Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama. That's right. I think we had almost 20 unions come together with our central labor councils, our state federations. We put more than 100 organizers on the ground together in Bessemer, Alabama. That kind of collaboration had never happened before. And we came so close in a right-to-work state, and they're still on the ground organizing in Bessemer, Alabama. That's right. We want to see that kind of collaboration as the model for organizing across our entire federation. There are more than 12 million of us in 57 unions in every state, in every zip code, in all industries. Think about what we could do if we harnessed all that power and used it to take on whole companies or whole industries together. Think about that. That's right. And that's the idea behind our newly created Center for Transformational Organizing, the CTO. This is where we're going to convert the energy of this moment into real union growth. We're going to come together. We're going to develop these movement-wide ambitions because this is the moment. Imagine what we could do if we could take on Amazon, for example, together. And I was just talking to Chris Smalls behind the stage, and we were talking about this, right? And you're going to hear from him. But imagine what we could win for working people if we took on a company like that together, where Jeff Bezos, remember Jeff Bezos? He earned in 7 seconds what an Amazon worker earned in a year. That is not right. That is not fair. And that's a company that has money to pay workers more and treat them better, right? And we're going to make sure they do. There is so much opportunity for organizing. And if you take one thing away from this today, it's got to be all about organizing. We have 93% of the private sector and 66% of the public sector workers that are not yet in unions, right? And if you look at the industries that are growing, the emerging areas of the economy, they're mostly non-union. It's terrifying to think about, right? As the industries grow and there are less unions, what's that future going to look like? Think about tech, big tech, and clean energy, two of the most dominant growing industries. We should be charting the course to make sure that those are good union jobs. We should build that future. We need to be in those labs and at those tables creating the next generation of technology, because workers are the ones who understand their industries better than anyone. And that's what Randy's talking about, getting with career and technical education, being on the front lines of that future of work, because that's how we make sure that working people benefit from the wealth that technology creates, not just CEOs who want to use it to get rich and exploit workers. So whether it's new technology or the climate crisis, The labor movement can use our power to shape a high road, high wage strategy. So let's talk about the renewable energy industry. Most of those jobs are low wage and non-union. So we saw the potential to change that. So the AFL-CIO worked with our global union partners in Denmark to build a partnership with the offshore wind company Ørsted. In Denmark, of course, they do all their work union. But then when they get to the US, not so much. So we used our leverage to negotiate a project labor agreement covering construction on wind farms all up and down the East Coast so that those construction jobs will be good union jobs. And we're going to make sure that communities of color who have been disproportionately harmed by pollution are part of these solutions. Because we know there's no racial justice without the economic justice that those high road jobs will provide. So we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep going to new places, keep trying new things, and lifting up new voices. We're going to show the next generation of organizers that we are the place to make change. We, the labor movement. And that's how we're going to meet our goal of organizing 1 million new members over the next 10 years. And we're going to build an organizing strategy that makes our movement more dynamic, more inclusive, more diverse, with more women, people of color, young people, and put gender equity and racial equity and economic equity front and center. That's how we build a better future for everyone to work in and live in. Because I don't know about you, this moment, our future feels pretty precarious right now. And I know Randy talked about this in her keynote. We face so many challenges as a country. Some days it feels like as individuals, we have no way to respond. But none of us have to respond alone, because our unions are there to lift us up, to lift our country up when we need them, like AFT members have done through the pandemic. And that's why even as public trust in institutions, whether it's Congress or organized religion, it's cratering. People are not trusting in institutions, but there's one institution they still trust: unions. They trust us. And we need to make the most of that trust. We may be the only institution out there that can get through to people and break through the noise and penetrate those echo chambers on Facebook and cable news. And that's what's leaving us more polarized than ever. And so if we don't step up, who will? And with all the misinformation out there, disinformation, we have a responsibility to lead in this election and every election moving forward. We are the only ones that can reach real workers, right? In actual workplaces throughout the country. And it's about face-to-face conversations. It's the only way we break through. So our state federations, AFL-CIO, state feds as we call them, local labor bodies, local unions, give us the reach and the infrastructure that no one else has. And Randy has been such a leader in these efforts on our National Executive Council. She's leading our state and local labor councils committee and community partnerships. So there you go. And she's been helping us roll out our Labor 2022 plans in the battleground states because she sees the importance, the muscle that we can flex as the labor movement. And we're taking a page out of AFT's playbook, and we're taking an organizing approach to politics. We're going to talk to our members face to face. We're going to listen to them and the issues that they care about. And then and only then do we connect them to the candidates who share those values. And this is year-round work, folks. There are no off years. We have to keep the conversation going. You know this. Keep building our relationships. Keep building our political power and our ability to create a fairer, more just country for everyone. And I know some of you are sitting out there a little skeptical, right? There's a lot of skepticism that in this time of polarization that any of this can be done. I get that. A lot of people think we can't pull off a campaign like this, that we can't win. But like any good teacher, when I look out at this crowd, I see so much potential, so many possibilities. And so here's where I channel my inner Mrs. Wilson. And I say, why not you? I know you can do this. Every single one of you can help organize more people. Every single one of you can help us elect pro-worker leaders. Every single one of you can help us build a better future. And I know you can because it's what you've always done. You don't shy away from a challenge, not when freedoms are in jeopardy, not when a pro-worker majority is on the line. So let's keep pushing. Let's keep fighting. And let's keep winning. Thank you, AFT. Thank you. Forgot about that. Thank you. Thank you. And I have the honor, we were speaking about Amazon. I get to introduce our next speaker, who is someone who looked at the challenge of taking on one of the biggest corporations in the world, and he asked his fellow workers, why not us? Chris Smalls decided that it was time the people who make Amazon work should have a say in the workplace and a say in the issues at the company. So he started organizing. And if you turned on the news in the last year or so, you might know how that turned out. And now we're going to hear all about it. So please join me in welcoming Amazon Labor Union founder, Christian Smalls.
Is labor in the house? I can't hear y'all. AFT? Is labor in the house? Thank you all. Thank you for having me here. I'm glad to, love you too. I'm glad to share the space with a bunch of fighters and warriors in the labor movement. So thank you. It's not a left or a right thing, it's a working thing, right? So I want to start off before I get into some real stuff I got to talk about. I want to synchronize the room real quick. So to everybody who feels up to it, you know, I know COVID's still a thing and everybody's masked up, but I want you guys to synchronize your power, because I think we forget how much power we really have when we come together. So I want you guys to hold hands, bow your heads, have a moment of silence. We had a lot of things happen this past year: gun violence, COVID, people losing their lives. I lost a lot of coworkers at Amazon. I know you guys lost coworkers as well. We can't forget about those who are not able to be here today. So let's use some labor power and bow your heads, hold your hands, your partners, your comrades to the left and right of you. Now look to the left, look to the right, and say, I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You got to feel it. Sometimes you got to feel it, right? Now, that being said, got some things to talk about. Labor. It's a war going on outside, right? Every day against us. You know? On April 1st, 2022, for the first time in American history in Staten Island, New York, 8,300 workers voted to become the first union for Amazon in American history. It's great. Historical moment. One of the best days of my life, next to my kid's birth. I'll tell you that right now. Every time I watch that video of me coming out, cheering with my team and sharing that moment, you know, I get chills in my spine because I know the sacrifice that it took to get there and the odds that we defeated to get there were unmatched. Yeah. And we have a long uphill battle. That moment is gone and past. And the high horse that we are riding is now no longer. You know, now it's back to the basics, it's back to the grassroots, it's back to the shop floor. And for me, I can't go back to the bus stop, but I can bring the cavalry. That's right. And what I mean by that, who was at Labor Notes in Chicago? Make some noise if you was in Chicago. So when I was in Chicago at Labor Notes, I gave the crowd a message that day. For those who don't know, as we speak right now, there's a Zoom link on our social media for Amazon Labor Union and my Twitter as well, my social media. There's a court hearing going on because Amazon objected to our election. Over 25 objections. Right. Shame on them, right? Now we're talking about the trillion-dollar company Amazon objecting to workers who voted and won by over 2,500 votes. By over 500, I'm sorry, 500 votes. And every day for the last 3.5 weeks, we have been in trial. I just testified yesterday. I couldn't even be here and join you guys for the first day of the convention because I was in the hotel room across the street testifying. The most alarming thing that I noticed is while I'm testifying, there was less than 100 people in that room. And this is a public hearing. So you see where I'm going with this. We won on April 1st. We had the support of everybody from all over the world. And we still have that support. But where does that support go when all the things and all the distractions and all the things that's happening in the media and our lives, our daily lives, just like anything else, any other movement, we're divided again. We're dwindling out on the message. We're forgetting about what happened. We're not showing up. For the last 3 weeks, there's been less than 100 people on the public hearing for this case. And this should be the most talked about hearing in labor right now. To be honest. Right? So when I made the announcement in Chicago, the next day we had about 500 people join the call. It was great. Yes, really great. It was so good when labor showed up, the next day Amazon tried to make a motion to make the hearing private. Go figure, right? They're like, complain we can't do this. So let me tell y'all, this is a call of action, We can have a speech. I can give a speech about all the things you heard. Y'all just had some great speakers and presidents and prominent figures. We know the issues. We can talk about it all day long, all day and night, right? The problem is, what are we gonna do about it, right? What are we gonna do about it? I didn't come to deliver a message or anything. I came to inspire and motivate, but I'm only one person. And we want to reclaim the future, right? We got to seize the moment. We got to seize this moment, right? We want to reclaim the future, we got to seize this moment. And what I'm asking from everybody here is to leave here and do more. What does that look like? I can tell you one. If the ALU, if we fail, we all fail. You understand that? Now be honest. It's not up to the ALU to fix the labor movement. You gotta get that out there as well, A lot of people have high expectations for myself and for the Amazon Labor Union. I love it. I want the pressure. Work better when pressure's against us. But at the same time, it's not about what are we gonna do, myself. It's about what all of us is gonna do together, collectively. Because there's a war going on outside, and the other side is winning. They are winning. If we don't wake up, this window of opportunity is gone. If the Amazon Labor Union doesn't get a contract, we failed. They won. What does that look like? How can I go to any worker in the shop floor and say, use that process, the NLRB process, to get to an election, to vote democratically, to vote in your union? How can I educate you all the way up to that process and then turn around and there's no end game, there's no justice for us? We all owe it to ourselves, we owe it to the younger generation, we owe it to our children to seize this moment to reclaim the future. We need you. And I'm asking for help. I'm asking for help as a leader. Because even as a leader, you gotta know when to lead, and you gotta know when to listen, and you gotta know when to seek help. And I'm asking the labor movement to help us claim this victory, which we rightfully won on April 1st. There's a court hearing on every single day. Show up if you could. You don't have to be every day, even if for a few hours. That helps. If you are in the New York area, there's demonstrations going on, join us. If you hear about other campaigns on, get involved. If they need information, send it to the right person, or delegate, or union. We need every little bit of help and support collectively in order to defeat Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And I'm excited because the future, we talk about the future a lot. It's uncharted waters right now, it's murky. Don't know what's gonna happen. But I get up every day with the same energy and the same fight because I know what I'm fighting for. It's not for myself, it's for my children. And when I was a kid, and I'm glad I'm in a room full of teachers, I'm gonna tell you now, I was a tough student. And it's not your fault, it was me. Let me tell you, being we learned some stuff. We learned some stuff in school, but I can tell you I got bored real quick. You know, my mom would tell you I was bored, you know, because the things they taught us, obviously, growing up, it's not really the real history of what we should be learning. Y'all know that, right? So I want to just say this to all the teachers here. You know what your duty is. Please continue teaching these kids the right history, the right history. And what I mean by the right history, please teach them labor, black history. Please, I'm begging you. As a student that didn't like school, I'm telling you now, I would have paid attention. Trust me, trust me. And I know I don't have that much time, so I'm gonna just say this. I'm gonna say this. The ultimate power that we have as leaders and organizers and activists is to withhold our labor. Imagine if Liz Scholler told the AFL-CIO, if Randy said, you know what, teachers don't go to work today. Imagine if everybody in the country, all the unions came together on one accord, right? And said, we ain't getting, there's no gun laws, there's no women's rights, there's no social injustice. I could go on and on. But imagine if we withheld our labor. I promise you, we'll get the future that we're trying to claim. So don't forget, right now we gotta seize this moment. Seize this moment. And if that says withhold your labor, God damn it, withhold your damn labor. And I know some other organizers and activists that have been doing some great work. I'm about to introduce them, my comrades from Starbucks. You know, Starbucks, give it up for Starbucks workers. I'm going to, before I bring them up, I gotta hear some chants real quick because it's only right, you know. I would love to do that one, but I'm gonna keep it real PG-13 today. But like you said, you know, withholding our power. Because if we don't get it, and if we don't get it, and if we don't get it, and if we don't get it, if we don't get it, one more time, we don't get it. Power to the people, y'all. And without further ado, I'm gonna bring up Richard Benzinger, Kayla Clay, and Jordy Adams from the Starbucks Workers United. Thank you all. Power to the people, solidarity forever.
Stay for 1 minute. All of you. Every one of us, every one of our locals was helped by someone else to start us. The UFT was helped by IBEW and ILGWU. You just heard Christian. AFT has given them $250,000 to have an office in Staten Island.
Right.
We're giving the Starbucks folks money for their strike fund.
Right.
Starbucks, our Western New York folks, helped the first Starbucks. You heard the message. For workers to have unions, our union has to help the Amazon and Starbucks unions. We gotta be at those hearings. We have to help. Are you ready to help?
Right.
I'm Richard Bensinger. I'm a union organizer, and the greatest honor of my 4 decades at organizing is working with these workers at Starbucks Workers United. But I've also seen the worst. I've seen the worst company campaign I've witnessed in 4 decades as well, led by Howard Schultz and Melody Hobson. They will not win. They can't turn back these workers. It's impossible to turn them back. I want to introduce Kyla Clay, who organized the first union in the state of Massachusetts and one of the first outside of Buffalo, and Jordy Adams, who had an election yesterday. And I'll let Jordy tell you what happened in her election.
First, I want to thank you all so much for having us. And on behalf of Starbucks partners everywhere fighting to better our workplace, thank you for all your encouragement and support. My name is Jordy Adams, and I've been a Starbucks partner for 6 years. I was going to keep you in suspense, but we won the election yesterday, so it's celebratory. So I've had the unique experience of working at 5 Starbucks stores in 3 different states. And there are systemic issues that you might have heard of. The lack of training, chronic understaffing, stagnated benefits. And these struggles aren't new, and they're not unique to us at Starbucks. But the strength to stand up for ourselves, strength and support from people like you, that's new to us. So we partners get asked a question that I imagine a lot of you are familiar with. If things are so bad, why don't you just leave? And our answer is probably also familiar. It's because we love what we do. But we know that we could love it more if given the opportunity to make it better. And that's why we unionize. Now, a year ago, I did not know what a union was, which is a little embarrassing because I was a history major. But like I just said, yesterday, my store in Vernon, Connecticut became the 2nd unionized store in the state. For years now, we at Starbucks have been fueling unionization. Brewing, steaming, shaking, there's really no wrong way to caffeinate. And throughout our unionizing campaign, your support has been overwhelming and humbling, and you have helped us fight. But the road has not been easy, and the battle's just beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordy. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyla Clay, and I am a proud union barista at 1304 Commonwealth Avenue, the first union Starbucks in Massachusetts. My store's journey officially began in December, and since then, I have witnessed firsthand what happens when you threaten to weaken the power of a corporation. It should come as no surprise when I say that Starbucks has declared war against its own workers. And Howard Schultz, their commander-in-chief, will stop at absolutely no lengths to prevent workers from exercising their right to unionize. We are witnessing one of the most aggressive anti-union campaigns in labor history. A mass exodus of hardworking, passionate workers fired simply for organizing their stores. Relentless store closures aim to destroy newly won unions under the guise of safety concerns. Baseless challenges to rightfully won elections, and the weaponization of abortion rights and gender-affirming healthcare benefits. On August 1st, Starbucks workers throughout America will be granted a series of new benefits that our union has advocated for since day one. But Schultz refuses to bargain with union stores so we too can enjoy those benefits. Instead, he is punishing my fellow coworkers for organizing their stores and securing a voice in their company. Howard Schultz, our CEO, has made it clear that if you vote to unionize, you will suffer the consequences. Starbucks has absolutely no regard for our rights. They believe that they are above the law and that they can fire worker organizers, threaten our benefits, and shut down union stores without any repercussions. Every day, Starbucks commits another egregious act of warfare against its workers. But we are going to win this war. And in so many ways, we already have. Because in the past 7 months, we went from 0 unionized Starbucks stores in America to over 190 in over 30 states. Together, we have successfully energized, organized, and mobilized thousands of baristas nationwide. Right now, we are in a pivotal moment in the labor movement. And it is the combined efforts of generations both young and old who must lead the way. We can no longer wait for our elected officials to make the changes we so desperately need. As educators, support staff, and healthcare providers, you are just as much as part of the fight as any Starbucks barista. And together, we hold the future in our hands. Together, we will win a future that benefits all workers and not just the wealthy elite like Howard Schultz. You all have this power to inspire and nurture thousands of future organizers who will reclaim our future. On behalf of my coworkers, I want to leave with one ask. Please sign our no contract, no coffee pledge to support your local Starbucks stores. Adopt a store, support them, order a Union Yes drink, and tell Howard Schultz to cut the crap. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, let's hear it for Starbucks workers and for Amazon workers and for every unorganized worker that wants a union. Let's hear it, AFT. This is a bigger fight than just a contract fight. It's a fight for decency. It is a fight for fairness.
There's little to no teacher input on a lot of the curricular decisions. There are things that teachers are fighting to have in writing because we need that consistency and the continuity.
So it's not ready for kids yet.
No está listo. We're here today in Puerto Rico. The issue is the infrastructure, the lack of resources, the lack of good materials.
No son minucias, es algo que tenemos que tener en la escuela, el servicio de internet, una buena electricidad y el equipo.
El rol de la unión es facilitar los procesos y ayudar para que cambios se den para el beneficio de la educación.
20 plus years to get this victory, and it was through organizing.
Our contract is going to be life-changing for lecturers here at UCLA.
Ask members what they want and need. When you listen to that, when that is the foundation of your organizing, you can build something.
AAUP and AFT have a long commitment to education as a public good. Professors with all that training are forced to rely on government assistance and food banks.
I've had twice adjunct faculty who were being evicted because they couldn't make their rent move in.
And that is why we are in favor of the most robust collective bargaining bill we can do in Colorado.
And it would just be a game changer for the whole state.
The Kansas City, Missouri School District takes a step towards giving employees a livable wage.
Here in Kansas City, Missouri, we were able to secure a really good contract. For the average person, it was a little over $4,500 raise. When you're paid hourly, $4,500 is really a game changer. It has been great for increasing our density among our PSRP division.
Bus drivers walked off the job this morning demanding better pay and safer working conditions.
They just stopped negotiating it altogether. We took the kids to school in the morning because that's a safety issue. And then we went on strike when we got back. That's what they ended up being negotiated up was us to $15 an hour. Without the union, wouldn't be a bargaining unit and they would have nothing. We'd still be working for minimum wage.
Our big point coming up to the strike was our staffing is so bad. We did everything from button campaigns on the floor, and we did tabling at every location that we have, to we had an 800-person rally that we had right out in front of the Kaiser Permanente building.
Can you hear us now?
Everybody, it didn't matter what bargaining unit you were or what job description you were, come together. We were about to go on strike, and 48 hours beforehand, we came to a tentative agreement.
There's a lot that we've been through the pandemic. I still go to human resources, and there's just so many concerns and things that seem to get lost in the mix. And if I didn't have the union to at least listen to me and actually understand and have the compassion, I don't know what I would do right now.
Teachers, parents, and students rally against a potential state takeover of the Boston Public Schools.
Get better with top-down mandates. What we need are the bottom-up solutions, and we have those solutions. So that's what we're here to say to the board. Today, even though we're glad that there has been an agreement reached at the 11th hour, is to say we're not going anywhere. We're still going to continue to fight for the schools our students deserve, because that is what we have been about and will continue to be about.
For the last couple of years in Florida, we've seen legislation aimed at taking away the freedom of our members to come together and to advocate. They wanted to really be able to put penalties in place against unions.
Oftentimes, they use legislation as a weapon to try to punish who they don't like.
There was a voucher bill that would have supplied millions and millions of dollars in taxpayers' money to pay for private education. That was a hard fight. We lobbied all the legislators and especially worked closely with the Republican moderates to show that our schools needed to be funded. It was soundly defeated in the House.
What they're calling them now is education savings accounts, which for us, if it looks like a voucher, it sounds like a voucher, then it is a voucher.
It was House Bill 1187, was targeted just at Local 4 Gary, one that took over the district and another one that stripped our school board of all its power. We had a pastor, all the parent groups were supporting us.
We stand with our 5,000 members throughout the state of Indiana.
We knew that we had that kind of power because we had done it before, and they continue to push these bills on us, so it encourages us to get stronger and mobilize.
America should be about working people. You're fighting for a generation, both this generation and the next generation, that are going to work in manufacturing in America.
It's a total disrespect for the workers that made Kellogg's what it is.
We are here today to talk about how transitioning to union-made electric school buses improve the lives of children, teachers, drivers, and the community.
Today is only the first step in a vision. We're officially joining hands with the American Federation of Teachers and our partner, Randy Weingart, and we're here together today.
We need a whole lot more good union jobs because we want to see this transition as a just transition where the workers are the center.
Angel's store is recently organized, and she was fired for organizing.
One of the reasons that we wanted to come to the first store that organized was honoring this work. It was pretty courageous.
It was a hard fight to get this first store here in Buffalo, and it's a hard fight for every store across the country that's choosing to organize. And it's support from Randy and from unions across the country that is giving us the strength to continue.
Thank you all for being here today on Solidarity Sunday.
We must support you, because with you goes the labor movement. With you goes workers' rights.
I think the AFT is important. Teachers Union is one of the biggest unions in the country, and to know that they have our back is very powerful for the workers.
One day longer! One day stronger! Solidarity.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage AFT President Randy Weingarten and the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
See, I know we're gonna have a conversation with Evie and Fed because I get all the great things to do today. And one of the greatest pleasures of my life is to actually reintroduce, because she is no stranger to us, but to reintroduce Dr. Biden to all of us today. Now, she is the First Lady of the United States of America. And I know we all went through extra security this morning because we have to make sure that the President, the First Lady, the Vice President, we have to keep them safe. So I hope this week already you all feel seen, and you see the importance that so many people have and see in all of us and the remarkable work you've done and our other members have done, educators, healthcare professionals, public employees, to pull this country together, to do what we had to do on the front lines, despite all the incredible obstacles. And so I hope you do feel that value. And I hope when we leave here on Sunday, you get recharged and ready to work, to do all the work we have to do. Seize the moment, reclaim our future in this race between fear and hope. We are the aspiration agents. We are those who fight for the greater good. But I have to say this. I've known the person I'm about to introduce for a very long time. She was, by the way, at our conventions before in Detroit when President Biden was vice president. But perhaps there's really, in my judgment, no one more important in this administration who really sees and understands what educators do and what healthcare professionals do than the First Lady of the United States. I'm sure many of you have heard President Biden introduce himself, especially to a room of educators, and it usually goes something like he did in the video that we had. My name is Joe Biden, and I'm Jill Biden's husband. You heard that yesterday. So he's the President of the United States, and in my judgment, he's doing an amazing job in adverse conditions. And here at the AFT, we are big fans of your husband. But can I really be honest here? We're really, really, really big fans of you. And we've never been more proud or more honored or more grateful to have one of our own, a teacher, right there in the White House. And so, to people in the world, this is FLOTUS, the First Lady of the United States, but to her students at Northern Virginia Community College, she's Dr. B. And Dr. B doesn't just talk the talk. As my kids at Clara Barton used to say, she walks the walk. She's taught for over 30 years. She knows what it's like to grade papers over dinner, to call a student at home, to check in on a family, to see someone's eyes light up, a kid's eyes light up when they recognize something in a book. The first week of the Biden administration, the First Lady asked Becky Pringle and I to come to the White House and to do an event with her. That first day, that first week, that was a message. It was a message to you. It was a message to the world that educators matter. In the first State of the Union address, Dr. B asked a nurse of ours from Ohio to sit with her in the box. When I say respect, that is who our next speaker is and does. And let me say one more thing, which is she understood, as does this White House. You saw what happened when President Trump or Donald Trump was president. 45% of the schools were open in person because he didn't care about us or the kids and giving us the safety or the resources. The first thing this administration did was to say we need safety and we need resources, and they opened up for in-person learning 99% of the schools in America. They care about us, they care about kids, they care about communities. Let me introduce to all of us again the First Lady of the United States of America, Dr. Jill Biden. Oh, and excuse me, she is a member of the NEA, which we also would like you to be a member of ours, so we are bestowing onto you honorary membership in the AFT.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll take that membership. So, good morning. It's wonderful to be back in Boston and with you, my fellow educators, my family. And isn't it nice to be back in person?
Yes.
Randy, you know, one of the things I love most about you is how you show up for people. When there's a problem, you find a solution. When someone's in need, you ask, how can I help? And it's what makes you such a powerful leader here at AFT. So thank you for your friendship. Thank you for caring. Thank you for putting this organization first every single day. And it's an honor to share a stage with Senator Warren and our great Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh. And I had the chance to travel here with Senator Markey and with Congresswoman Presley. So like some of you, I just got an email this week asking me to sign my contract for the next semester. And it made me think about this is true. I just signed it this morning before I came here. And it made me think about the first one that I signed 38 years ago. And looking back, it's hard to believe that anyone could be, that excited to scribble their name on a line, but I was. And it felt like so much more than an employment contract. It felt like I was becoming the person I was meant to be. So let me ask you all, do you remember that moment when you first decided to take this path? To be a teacher, it isn't an easy job. So think about it for a minute. Why do we do this? For me, I thought about just how much books had shaped me, how I loved falling into them and escaping or learning something new. And it broke my heart that there were so many people who really didn't know that joy. I realized that it was a gift that I could give to someone, that I could teach someone else to read. And I bet each one of you has a similar story, a moment when you realized that you wanted to be the person to open up the world for someone else, to give the smile that helps the student find the confidence that she didn't know was inside of her, to be the one who says, hey, it's okay. We'll figure this out together. We believe that there is something profoundly optimistic about education. To answer this call of service is in itself an act of hope. And we need that hope now more than ever. As Randy said yesterday, teaching has become so much harder. But you don't quit. You show up to work like I do with a granola bar because you know that someone in your class is going to be hungry. You keep your voice calm when you explain active shooter drills and how you teach your kids to stay quiet when they have to hide under their desks, even though a part of you breaks into pieces each time. You tell your students that change is possible, even though you know that when the young women looking up at you with those hopeful eyes have lost rights that they don't even understand yet. You turn down the news on the TV, telling you about people who want to stop you from doing your job, and you put your shoulders back and you just go out and focus on your students. There is so much weight on all of you, but you carry it. Our schools are where policies become people. And educators are at the center of it all. And we're not alone. Healing is hopeful as well. And as Joe always said, if there are any angels in heaven, they are all nurses. America is so grateful for the sacrifice, all the sacrifices that you have made. You know, I'm proud of what Joe's done in these last almost 2 years, from historic investments to reopen our schools, to addressing the mental and academic needs of our students, to signing the bipartisan gun bill and defending women's reproductive health rights, to delivering on the promise of loan forgiveness for public servants. In fact, almost 150,000 public servants have already received loan forgiveness because of changes our administration has made. The president that you elected is working every day to keep his promises, but we need partners who will join him, because we believe that AR-15s, the weapon that tore apart 19 children and 2 teachers in their classroom, have no place on our streets. We believe should be able to make their own decisions about their own bodies and pregnancies, ending child poverty, providing affordable child care and free community college are not divisive issues. They should not be red or blue. Our government represents the will of the people, and that's why the people need to get involved. Teachers, nurses, higher education and healthcare workers, public servants, all of us. Yes, we need to vote in races at every single level. And we need to remember that voting is the bare minimum. We have to get involved in the local governments that decide how cities plan their budgets and protect their students. We have to stand up for justice and equity. All of us have a teacher voice for when things go off the rails, and now is the time to use it. We have to come together as AFT always have and demand that we need to be heard. I will be there beside you every step of the way. Now, it's going to be difficult. We know that. But we do this work because we believe that a better world is possible. And we know that we are the ones who make the future real. Underestimate the power of this coalition at your own risk. We will fight for the communities we care about, and we will never give up, because that's who we are. Optimists, true believers, fighters, and that's what we do every day in little ways and big ones. We change the world. So let's get to work. Thank you. Thank you, AFT.
Okay, before you all go, remember I said we're going to do some other business. We are going to organizing collective bargaining. We will adjourn before